Hey, everybody. Adam Savage in my cave. You've seen me over the years work on the crown jewels. And the crown jewels led me to a kind of an obsession with famous gemstones, both fictional and non-fictional. And I've built actually, I'll show you just a second. I built a fairly impressive collection of cubic zirconia replicas of famous gemstones. I'm sort of fascinated by how beautiful and how much horror they represent in terms of human misery. But that's not the point. The point of this video is that I picked up this amazing custom aluminum toolbox. And the previous holder I had for the collection was in these foamcore trays as I was thinking about maybe installing them in something kind of like this thing. I'm not even going to walk you through my whole thought process on this because it's gotten a little bit top heavy. And now I kind of really like this case. So I'm just going to make a couple of new trays. You know, sometimes I need to recontextualize objects into a different setting and then carry them around for a little while and sort of understand them. That's kind of where I'm at. So we're just going to do a little foam core. There's, you know, a little bit of crafting. It's worth talking about this process because I do a lot of this. I do a lot of making multiple sets of inserts and containers for groups of objects that I'm collating. And foam core is a fantastic way for me to understand how things might lay out. This all started because I found an old auction where I bought this. This is a glass Great Star of Africa. This was released around the turn of the 20th century as part of a set called Famous Historical Gemstones or Famous Diamonds. And there's a bunch of sets of these. They show up at auction all the time. I managed to find a very reasonably priced set on eBay. And it was incomplete. There was a couple of things that were chipped, but over the last 10 years that I've had this collection, I've replaced almost all of these with cubic zirconia replicas, which they have better refractive index than glass that replicates diamond a little bit better. Diamond's in the white range. Cubic zirconia is more in the full color range. But suffice to say, like, I've been buying these piecemeal over the course of a decade, which is how to spread out the pain of something like that, because a full-size cubic zirconia replica of the Great Star of Africa, and by the way, just take a look at the difference in how these two look next to each other. Boop! Is there a contest? There's no contest. At least he didn't know about it. Yeah, so you can get this right now on eBay for about $300. That's the Cullinan one, by the way. This is it's just me workshopping a part of my brain to see how I think about it. That's all. That's what's happening right now. And because I got this case, I had to reformat these, as it were, in order to understand where I was going with them. That's all. Well, it's a little bit better. Oh yeah, what was going on here? Irwin Quick Grips. Some of them actually allow you to do pushing as well as pulling. So that works as a clamp, but I can move this to the other side and I can push with it. And that's actually a great feature. I'm working on a piece of science communication here, and I'm just not sure how it's going to pan out, but this is where it is so far.
All right, sir. It feels weird showing this to someone else.
What a collection.
I know.
I've been collecting this slowly over like the better part of the last decade, just like a couple of pieces a year. And it's a pretty reasonable collection of famous gemstones now.
And they feel like they're here to touch.
This is what I want. I want them to be able to be handled. I want to display a display solution that engenders handling these guys.
Yeah, it's what kind of the textbook collage of all these brought to reality.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a German term for this, Wunderkammer.
Mm.
Wunderkammer is a cabinet of curiosities. And this is sort of the precursor to the museum. People who traveled well would have artifacts from their travel. And if you visited their house, they'd pull out this cabinet of curiosities and walk you through the stories of each object. So I realize all I've ever been doing is sort of what early Germans were doing with the museum.
But this you don't envision as the drawer. Like this isn't how they're going to live.
This is me just seeing, it's just trying to see them all at once and think about modalities for display. I'm thinking right now, actually, that the anchor of this is the Cullinan diamond that all the royal jewels, crown jewels were cut from.
Oh my goodness.
This is a cubic zirconia model of the original 5,000 carat stone.
Insane.
And then these are the Cullinans 1 through 9, all the way down here. 3 have been made into brooches, 2 are in crowns, one's a scepter. And so I was thinking of actually starting with a display of just the Cullinan diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a discrete object. And then I'll go from there for the rest of these. I also have a whole drawer of fictional diamonds.
So there are going to be drawers, going to be containers, and I see that you've kind of made some labels.
I did some graphic treatments of labels, thinking about our Eufy printer, thinking about how much detail I could put into the label. And graphic design is hard. I don't do it all the time, but I used to do it. So I can easily be led to believe like I could design this. And I've just been realizing that I really want the kind of the detail and the luxury that Eufy printer puts out for these. And I'm still playing around with it graphically.
Well, the exercise we went through last time of making your machine labels, we learned a lot about what you like from the aesthetic of what it could produce, right? The dimensionality was something I didn't expect you to respond to.
The dimensionality is the most surprisingly awesome aesthetic aspect of it to me, because it speaks to these ways in which things used to have a kind of luxury to them that the end flattening just has gotten rid of.
And those machine labels, you know, perfect for attaching to the machines in here. The aesthetic you're going for, something a little more bespoke, is something maybe still old, but like a label, like a library card catalog label.
It's the idea of the British scientific gentleman who goes to his like enamel porcelain label manufacturer down the road and some carriage, next to some carriage manufacturer, and says, could you make me 20 labels for these guys? And then they do their treatment of it. That's the kind of label I want this to feel like.
Okay, so what I can do, if you think of a material that you might want the labels to live on, is I'll draft up a couple different options. You'll send me some designs you might like, and we'll experiment with the size of the text, dimensionality, color, and then kind of riff on that.
I'm also thinking specifically that each of these is in its own separate little box, so that will help us dial into the size of the label.
Perfect. All right, that's easy. That's the process that we got with the machine. I can make a dozen with the press of a button.
Amazing. I can't wait to see this.
All right, so Adam has charged me with making some prototypes for these display labels for his collection of gems. And he already did some designs himself. I mean, this is just paper. All of this, my understanding, is to give him a sense of just the size and presence and to kind of internalize everything, but we can do a better job with the real materials that he's actually using. And we had a lot of success last time using the Eufymake E1 UV printer, making metal machine labels. And I think printing on metal is something that we're really gonna try again. This time, we're gonna try brass. So I have a strip of brass that we're gonna print some on. Adam has sent me some rudimentary designs. I'm gonna be tweaking those in an image editor to maybe add some transparencies, think about where we want some of the actual color of the brass to shine through. And then, like last time with the machine labels, add some dimensionality, some relief texture on the text to make it feel like, real ink or pigment or wax or something that it was handmade, even though it's made by this machine. So let's get this strip of test brass, which I've already kind of worn down a little bit with some steel wool, give it a little more grip and tack. This will go right here. So right now it's taking a photograph of the mini flatbed to give me an accurate representation of that material that I'll be printing on. This is super thin. It's well within the limits of the materials that you can print on. And I'm going to drop a couple designs. We'll try one flat just to give Adam a basic comparison. We'll try some with dimensionality, try some with really raised texture, and get it over to Adam. All right, Adam, I got a couple of prints for you.
Dude.
You sent me some designs that you had whipped up in Photoshop. So,
oh shit. Okay.
all right, so there's flat
Uh-huh.
and there's textured. And I want to give you both options, even though I think we know which one you're going to gravitate toward.
It's a funny one with this, with the black.
Yeah.
Because funny, is this did I not bold one N?
I fixed that in the second printing.
Okay. The dimensionality, while I love it, makes this slightly less readable. And so I'm just curious about, is this the same amount of dimensionality?
This one is just a little bit, yeah, it's about the same.
That's
Yeah,
way
that's
better.
way better. Okay.
Yeah, because I think you've got a little higher dimensionality on the small letters, and that makes them more readable.
And because that relief is generated automatically in their system, I think they use just bright and dark, right?
Right,
Here's,
right.
you know, white on black or black on white. So I've given you kind of two options.
Dude, this is amazing. I just threw this in at the last minute, just wanting to see big versus small detail, and that might be the label of my dreams here. I'm thinking of making the boxes out of black walnut. I've got a whole bunch of this 1/4-inch resawn that I did.
So we brass on top of that with, that's a nice
Yeah.
contrast.
I mean, if we, this is great because it's square. So I can cut this, right? Just slightly, an 1/8 inch border. We might want to make this a little bit smaller, but holy cow, that's gorgeous. It looks like an old porcelain label.
I like the porcelain aspect, which means that if you put paint on it afterward, it's going to wear exactly where it'd be. And then this print was interesting because this was just a test of how small and how fine we could print graphics.
That's way finer than I thought was feasible. That level of detail here is phenomenal. I love this one more, but holy cow, does this give me also, like, we can just put our own text in here and we get this great value out of that.
Well, it gives me the confidence I can shrink this down.
Yeah, totally.
And that will read, yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna graphically work this up for all of the Cullinans.
Okay.
It's not gonna be 9, it's gonna be more than 9, because I'm gonna do some for individuals and some for the brooches they were part of. But yeah, I'll send you this file. Oh, the etching lines here look so good.
I'll leave this with you. You want to throw some paint on it, experiment with it.
Okay.
I know you're going to go work on making the containers, the boxes.
Yep.
And then I'll check in with a bunch more printed.
Amazing.
And we can iterate from there.
Dude, that's really thrilling. All right. I'm going to start by making one box for the largest of the Cullinans. And I know that is the largest, but that's a totally separate deal. I'm going to make a box for this that will also work for all the other Cullinans, so I can have a discrete cassette of them. And I'm just going to figure out the sort of basic minimum dimensions that I kind of want this thing to be. Let's see, that works great, and that also works great for that. And that for this. Yeah, and that for this. Yeah, maybe just a tiny bit bigger. So that's the lid base. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh-huh. Great. All right. So you might have noticed that I didn't get super slavish about the precision on these. I've got some overlaps. I've got some places where these corners don't meet perfectly, and that's actually on purpose. I could have built these to a very, very precise spec, but I'm building a replica of a fictional piece of Victorian hardware. And what I know from having looked at and handled Victorian hardware is if there were a bunch of cubby boxes, they would not all be exactly the same size. There would be very, very minor variances between them. And so I'm trying to naturally include that in my process. So I'm about to take these two boxes, which will become lidded boxes by my making a cut in them. But before I do that, I'm going to take them onto my disc sander, which I put a new disc on and set to perfectly square. And I'm going to square up these boxes and neaten up all the corners. That'll get them pretty close to each other, but different enough to feel like a genuine piece of Victorian hardware. Here's a nice before sanding, 5 minutes of sanding. Okay. Okay, cool. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Yep. Awesome. Okay. To the rafters. I did. Excellent. That's the red velvet that I wanted. That's just what I wanted. Wait, no, I need foam too. Hold on. Okay. So we're going to stain this with my favorite color, medium brown. I'm waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up. Oh, wait. Is it that one? Sure, maybe that one. There we go. Yeah. There we go. All right. I actually think that's going to be able to be just fine. Okay, cool. Okay, now this guy. Yes. Okay, so. Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. Just a few short clips of fabric away. Okay, that goes in there. And then this guy. There we are. That's how we're doing it. Boop, boop. That's great. That's very well protected in there, and you can pop it out and take a look, put it back in. Okay, and let me see how Norn's doing on the labeling. Oh, this is so pretty. No, that's too big. It's this one. It's that one. It's fascinating printing this out in multiple scales because, first of all, the resolution at the smaller scales is super impressive. This is resolving like 3-point type here, which is beautiful. But the details of this specific label work best at about this scale. They look best here. And I love being able to make multiples of this because this really looks like a bit of porcelain. All right, let's cut it out. That would be that. Good. Okay. Almost there. Almost there. We need one last little thing. The thing I love about this is the dimensionality and the way it feels like a bit of porcelainage. I don't even know if that's a word, but I am going to just kill its shine the tiniest bit. And I've got some of my favorite Vallejo washes here. I love these guys. This is just a sort of a neutral brown. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to just give it a little bit of that. And then we're going to take it back off again. Look! Oh, so quickly. Oh, yeah. Right? And the wash, we can do some differential stuff around here. It's like not quite perfectly even. Okay, one last treatment. One last treatment and then we're done. I need something that sits here. Oh. I'm just going to give it ever so much of a clear coat, just to sort of lock in its look. I am so happy. That is great. You're wondering how this will close. Well, these are actually all going to fit in little cubby holes. So there might be a handle here. I am not positive, but they're going to sit in cubby holes right now. And I am really happy with how this came out. That is just the kind of display I was hoping for from these guys. Dude.